By the way, Jamila, the fight for Jubilee is well and truly on. I think in 24 hours, Jeremiah Kioni has been Secretary General.
Twice.
Yeah. So let's listen to him now, talking about that takeover and what his thoughts are on it. Was it legal? Was it illegal, Jeremiah Kioni?
G and the party leader can call the National Executive Committee. You do not need to have gone to a CBC class to understand the meaning of that provision in the Constitution. But it's amazing that the registrar even went ahead and said that the NEC was properly convened. The individuals, of course, took it upon themselves and used the letter to think that they have been given the mandate of moving into offices. What is amazing is that the police officers had the audacity of accompanying individuals to an office, and they were fully armed, 4 bloody cruisers of police officers.
Shuri, what happened?
Many things.
Many things happened. From last week.
Yeah.
I mean, was it Friday? Like, tulimaliza tu show hivi, and the next day, things started to unfold.
Many things happened. And some of those things that happened, we talked about them right here. The National Executive Council meeting that was held in Nakuru was a few days after the 32 members of parliament from the Jubilee party went to State House. Yeah. And remember, before then, there were 9 MPs from the Mount Kenya region, I think 9 or 12 from the Mount Kenya region, who first went to Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's office, then they went to State House, and then the group expanded. And so the 14 out of 21 members of the National Executive Council met in Nakuru. How they ended up in Nakuru is a story for another day. But be it as it may, they were in Nakuru. And part of the resolutions that they passed was, 1, suspension of Jeremiah Kioni as Secretary General, suspension of David Murathe as Vice Chair, and suspension of Kagwe Gishohi as National Treasurer. And their positions were handed over to new officials. Kanini Kega, Acting Secretary General, Aden Keinan, the Member of Parliament for Eldas, as Acting Vice Chair, and Rachel Nyamai, the MP for Kitui South, as Acting National Treasurer. Shortly after, the team went to the prayer meeting that was in Nakuru. On Monday, they filed the returns of that NEC meeting to the Registrar of Political Parties. The following day, the registrar wrote back and actually okayed the changes that were effected in Nakuru. And then Kioni and team also wrote to the registrar and questioned the legality of that meeting. She wrote back and told them, by the way, the meeting was legal and the changes were effected legally. The Kioni team went to the political parties' dispute resolution tribunal, where they got orders today, orders by Desma Nungo. Desma Nungo is the chair of the tribunal, staying the change of guard until that matter that has been filed by Kioni, Murathe, and team is heard and determined. And that's why you saw yesterday, Kanini Kega and team went to the party headquarters. They have a new party headquarters along Dick Road in Kileleshwa, and took over the office. Of course, you saw police officers there. Today, after the tribunal decision, Jeremiah Kioni, escorted by Raila Odinga, Martha Karua, Kalonzo Musyoka, and other members of the Azimio top leadership, were there to retake over the party headquarters. So it's been, let's say, 24 hours, 48 hours of the fight for the soul of Jubilee Party. Yeah. No surprise. I think politics 101 is at play. Consolidate your numbers, decimate your opponent. Yeah. And that decimation includes poaching. You remember our word last week? Yeah. Poaching. Raid your opponents, decimate the coalition, like we are seeing happening to Azimio. You remember and it started way back end of last year. The 12 MPs who were elected as independent candidates, 10 went to Kenya Kwanza. They so-called small political parties that were part of Azimio were quickly roped
those from Garissa, Wajir, UDM. That's right, yeah.
Quite a number of them were roped into Kenya Kwanza. And so you could see initially the numbers were very close in the National Assembly. Actually, we're talking about a different, actually initially, if you're to look at the strict reading of the law, Azimio had a majority in the House. But what happened? The numbers were quickly raided, and so the numbers increased for Kenya Kwanza. You even remember that quarrel over who is majority, who is minority, and the ruling by the Speaker of the National Assembly.
Yes.
And so that is where we are insofar as the political structuring, alignments and realignments is concerned.
And let's listen to Raila Odinga for just a moment, Jamila, who says this is an attempt to take us back to pre-1992 days.
Thing we ever fought for and won is threatened. Kenya Kwanza administration has launched an all-out assault on our hard-won multi-party democracy. There's an all-out push by the Kenya Kwanza regime to kill other parties, buy and co-opt members of parliament into its ranks, and intimidate and bully all those that resist the administration's illegal, unconstitutional, and anti-democratic maneuvers.
And Yvonne, what Gashuri is talking about and the fears that the Azimio leader has are almost coming to pass. President Ruto's plan to actually have a majority in the House seems to be coming closer to actually a reality, because you talked about the numbers in the House, Gashuri, 179 MPs for Azimio, for Kenya Kwanza, and 157 for Azimio, and then add the 10 that you talked about, the independent, that's 189. If you add the 30 Jubilee MPs and the 9 ODM lawmakers who seem to be moving towards the president's side, that 44-member gap that he needs to be able to have a majority of 233.
Super majority.
Supermajority, out of the 349 is moving closer to reality, Yvonne. And again, we talked about this last week about the optics that this is for Raila Odinga and the rallies he's been doing across the country. When you have key legislators, key leaders in Jubilee and key leaders in ODM, faces that are associated with Azimio because of the countdown to the election, the rallies and all that, and after. And then you see those people trooping to the government side, is really a psychological blow to the opposition in terms of now what the optics are. Because they are going to troop and they are moving pole-pole, and more of them will move. And as I said, this absolute majority is almost becoming a reality, so that he's able to push through what he wants in the House.
And 233 is the magic number that can push even a constitutional amendment,
yes,
correct?
The President has sent a memo to the speakers of the House and the issue that he wants passed, including having CSs in Parliament answering questions about the 2/3 gender rule, and I think the
introduction of the official leader of opposition's office, constitutionalizing CDF, that National Government Constituency Development Fund, NGAF, the National Affirmative Action Fund, the Senate Oversight Fund.
And those would pass if he actually has the majority, and that is what the president is working towards. And as I said, vile mambo inaenda atapata ile kitu nataka. I think that's why the irritation, the anger, and what we are seeing, the fight now to try and keep Jubilee is really, really gaining momentum, because of what it means if these guys move and they lose the party.
Yeah, but you know, there's also, I mean, I think we've talked about political hygiene. You know, so soon after the election.
No sooner than.
No sooner has this happened than. If there's ever a way to learn how to use that English phrase, this would be it. But where you're seeing even people who are majority whips and deputy majority whips, who then, of course, cannot continue to hold, you know, that function if you have moved over to, minority. If you've moved over to the side of the majority, then, you know, you can no longer be whips. And we saw, you know, an attempt to de-whip those members and, you know, find replacements for them. But you see, Linus, this is where we are, the moving and the shifting and the, you know, looking for the softer landing. I mean, politics can be hard in this country, but it seems like once you are on the losing end, nobody wants to be on that side of the fence. And I use the term losing, perhaps a better term, on the minority side.
Movement is illusional in party politics in Kenya. It's totally illusional. It's like, sorry to those who use the treadmill, you're actually not the one running. the belt is moving. And, and this is what has happened. What is going on in Jubilee is exactly what went on in Ford, Kenya, when the handshake was holding. Because what happens is now the faction allied to those in power suddenly gets a lot of energy. And this is how Wafula Mamunyenye conducted a coup.
And David
Simiyu in Ford, Kenya, to throw out Moses Wetangula. Of course, that was reversed later through subsequent
legal action.
Legal action. But this is exactly what went on during the handshake days. So Jubilee is going through now the foot. The shoe is on the other foot. Because now the Kenya Kwanza administration comes in and they are going ham and tongs for the Azimio coalition wherever they can find them. That is what they have done with Jubilee. And look, there's something that should actually concerns us. I was looking at the handling of these matters by the registrar of political parties. And there's something similar about how she handled, it's the same registrar, how she handled the Ford Kenya issue and how she is handling the Jubilee issue. She's reading power politics. Where is the muscle? Where is who's got the sword at the moment? Because in the Ford Kenya issue, she ruled in favor of the coup. In the Jubilee issue now, she also has accepted that Kioni has been replaced. And these are the things that in totality contribute to our stunted growth when it comes to party politics. We're not moving. We're on the treadmill. Ford, Asili and Ford Kenya did this. Ford Kenya, Jubilee are doing this. KANU, everybody basically has been down this path. ODM, everybody has been down this path. And it just says, unfortunately, we haven't moved much from 1992 to now, except occasional flashes of hope, like 2002 when we had the National Rainbow Coalition, which very quickly again demonstrated that it was just a paper tiger. It collapsed so soon after it came to power. So on party politics, I think it's really messy. And what is also weakening us is the absence of institutionalism. Because if the office of the registrar of political parties is not going to help with that hygiene we're talking about, it's going to behave that way. There's another office that has behaved that way after the election. Maybe we shouldn't talk about that for today. But yeah, they follow the wind. Who is in State House? Who's got power? So look at, and I insist on the comparison between the Ford Kenya case and the Jubilee case. It's been handled by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
And one fundamental question, where is the party leader of Jubilee, former President Uhuru Kenyatta? Because he's, for all intents and purposes, the owner, quote unquote, of the party. Now that he's silent and the coup is happening in his party, will he fight back? Wouldn't he fight back?
I don't think he was replaced, was he?
He's still the party leader.
He wasn't suspended.
He wasn't suspended.
Yeah.
And is his term as party leader coming to an end?
When were even party elections done or anything like that?
Exactly.
Some of these things are appointive.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to hear what he says, because you remember the scramble for Jubilee then between the then president and his deputy. So I think it sounds more like a payback time. You remember how officials who are allied to the deputy party leader then were thrown out.
Yeah.
Of course, with a process orchestrated by the party leader then, President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now you see the shift. The same thing happening to him, done or probably sponsored or driven by his deputy then, who is now president, because the fight for the soul of the Jubilee party is now at stake.
But let's face it, Jubilee did what it was meant to do.
Yeah, special purpose vehicle.
It's special purpose vehicle. So now it's going through the motions of that we have seen with all political parties. You bring somebody into power in State House. After that, you have no use, no value. It'll happen and go through the same motions. Who knows if it'll still be UDA in 2027? In 2032, who knows which new party will come, depending on who's going to be able to rally and cobble up a political party outfit, for their run to power. So we shall wait and see. Ladies, gentlemen, that is where